Hello, this is Steph Lehmann, Illustrator for Far Country Press. Today, for National Read Out Loud Day, I would like to read to you from one of my favorite books that I've illustrated. It's based on the true story of an Australian Shepherd puppy that gets lost in Yellowstone National Park. It's called Jade, Lost in Yellowstone. Laura and her friend David were taking a trip to Yellowstone National Park. Riding in their carriers were Layla and Jade, their two Australian Shepherd puppies. Laura laughed. This vacation is for the dogs. They've become best buddies, David agreed. Jade barked in the back. David sighed. She wants out of her carrier, but it's tough getting her back in. Laura trained dogs. You have to coax her with treats. We've seen lots of elk and bison, but no moose yet, Laura said. No, and no bears either. Well, we know that they're out there, along with the mountain lions, coyotes, and wolves, Laura added. The park looks better now that the wolves are back and the natural ecology has returned. David pointed at the flourishing trees and streams. Suddenly, an oncoming truck swerved right at them. With a bang, the car slammed to a stop. Jade fell hard against her crate. She barked at David, but he didn't answer. David was knocked unconscious, and Laura was hurt. Jade and Layla whimpered. Jade's plastic carrier broke in the crash. Arms grabbed for her. Rangers were trying to help, but Jade didn't know them. Ignoring the rangers' call, she leapt past them. Jade zigzagged across a meadow and ran into the woods to hide. In the hospital, David got a call from the rangers. Jade was missing. That night, feeling very alone in the strange woods, Jade wondered where David was. She had sniffed at the side of the road and picked up his scent. Then the trail ended. Darkness came, and Jade was too tired to search any longer. She curled onto a bed of pine needles underneath the tall trees. Woohoo! Woohoo! Jade woke to a strange sound. She smelled the blood of prey and knew the huge bird she saw was hunting. She wasn't afraid. She stood up and growled. The owl ruffled his feathers and flew off into the night. In the morning, Jade was thirsty. She followed her nose to a bubbling stream where she drank and drank. Later, Jade looked for David along the road. She came up to other parked cars, but then ran away. Those people weren't her family. David and Layla and Laura left the hospital the next morning to look for Jade. They called and whistled for her, but the puppy did not hear them. David hated to leave without finding Jade, but he had to get more treatments for his injuries. Jade's tummy growled. She tried to eat a pine cone like the other critters were doing. Yuck! That night, lightning flashed, thunder rumbled, and rain drenched Jade's thick coat. Shivering, she dreamt of home. David, her warm bed, puppy chow, and her toys. She wanted to go home. One morning, Jade ran toward some funny-looking animals in a clearing. She wanted to nip at the elk's legs and round them up like cattle, but their big antlers warned her off. She watched the elk graze. She ate some grass, but it made her belly ache. Jade saw a critter she recognized. She had chased them at home, but never caught one. She didn't catch this squirrel either as it raced up a tree. It sat on a branch chirping at her. Jade had been missing now for 4 days. At the edge of the woods, Jade smelled food. She ran toward a bone she saw lying in the grass. Meat, just like at home. But then 2 odd-looking dogs jumped out of the brush, snarling. The coyotes growled and snapped. Jade dashed away. She hid behind a pine tree and watched them hunt. Later, Jade tried to hunt. The mice slipped away no matter how fast she ran. How she wanted some puppy chow. Jade had been missing for 8 days. Days passed, and Jade was so hungry. She ate grass and any berries she could find. Then one day, she saw a dead chipmunk in the road. She ran out, grabbed it, and took it back into the woods to eat. A road construction crew spotted her and called the park rangers. The lost dog is thin, they said, but still alive. 3 weeks had passed since the crash. David and Laura drove back to Yellowstone to look for Jade again. Discouraged, David wondered if they should just give up. Yellowstone was so big. A woman named Kat Brecken called them the next day. I work in Yellowstone and I want to help you find your dog Jade. We haven't had any luck, David said. She's been gone for weeks. As long as people see Jade, I'll look for your little girl, Kat said. We'll get more people to help. David and Laura felt a little bit of hope. Jade had been missing for 21 days. One day, people in a car spotted Jade. Look, a dog! She did not recognize these humans. They weren't her family. She used to be friendly, but ever since the accident, she was afraid of strangers, so Jade ran away. But then Jade caught a whiff of something familiar. David's scent! It led her through a meadow with huge, shaggy beasts. A male bison pawed the ground, giving Jane a warning. Jade kept back as he led his herd away. They left behind mounds of fresh poop in the field. Jade's mouth watered. It wasn't as good as meat, but it was food. As Jade rounded a hill, she spotted 2 puppies gnawing a bone. She ran towards them, eager for company. They wagged their tails. Jade wiggled her rear and smiled. Grrr! Jade jumped! The mother wolf was twice Jade's size. She snarled, but then sniffed at the cowering Aussie. The wolf gave Jade a motherly nuzzle and loped away with her pups. Jade chewed on a bone the wolves had left behind. A raven watched her and gave a loud croak and flew off. The raven flew towards a village. Curious, Jade followed her to the wrecked SUV. She smelled David, his friend Laura, and her dog buddy Layla. She waited for them hiding in the nearby tall grass. Jade had been missing for 30 days. A woman getting gas at Canyon Village service station spotted Jade in the tall grass nearby. That dog should be on a leash, the woman thought. She moved close enough to Jade to realize the puppy was an Aussie. And then Jade ran away. In the search for Jade, rangers set out traps near Canyon Village. Jade smelled the traps. Her mouth watered from the dog food they put inside, but the wired cage made her suspicious. To aid in the search, Kat Brecken needed something with Jade's owner's scent, so she asked David to mail some dirty clothes to her. She hoped that putting the clothes out in the area Jade was seeing would attract her. Yum! Jade sniffed the air, but she was too far away to smell David's clothes. Instead, she smelled fresh meat just beyond the meadow. She ran for it. Jade had been missing for 35 days. Roar! A huge beast lunged forward, protecting its food. Jade sprinted away, the grizzly close behind. With one big leap, she dove inside a hollow log. Her heart pounded as the bear clawed at the wood with a paw that was as big as Jade's head. Then Jade and the bear heard people, and the bear ran away. Jade ran from the log and hid in the tall grass of the nearby meadow. David, Laura, and Layla had come back to Yellowstone for one more try to find Jade before winter set in. Kat says they've seen Jade here, said Laura. I think I see something. It could be Jade, David shouted excitedly. Whoa! Just then a big bear came out of the woods. Laura stepped on the gas and sped down the bumpy road. Whoa! Laura watched as the bear stopped. That was close. I hope Jade was nowhere near that bear, David said, worried. Jade had been missing for 40 days. Laura and David drove to an area where Jade was last seen. They sat in a meadow hoping Jade would smell David and come to him. We've done this for 2 days, David grumbled, discouraged. I get the feeling she is watching us, but just won't come. We have to be patient, like Kat told us, and remember the poster has tips to help, Laura pointed to the flyer. That's right. I just hope she will come to me, David said and smiled. She is my pup. The poster had missing tips. Some of them said, Jade is skittish following her recent trauma. Do not chase her. If you see Jade, try to entice her to you. Sit quietly and allow her to approach you. She may be inclined to approach people with other dogs. Remember, dogs must be on a leash at all times. Do not use her name. This seems to scare her. Instead, use Here Puppy. And if you see Jade, call Yellowstone National Park Visitor Station. Still afraid of the grizzly's return, Jade spent the night hiding in the meadow. Then she heard David's calls and whistles. He was here! Popping her head up, she thought she saw him. But he looked wrong. This man's arm and leg were stiff, and he smelled different. Confused, Jade ran to the safety of the woods. Jade! Jade! David ran after her as fast as he could with his bad leg. What happened? Laura said as she ran up to him. I saw her, and she saw me too, but I panicked and chased her, and she ran away. He swiped a tear from his eye. If she won't come to me, I'm afraid she won't come to anyone. Laura wondered if Jade had become too wild to be part of a family again. At least you saw her. No matter what, David said, sadly. I've lost my Jade. That night, Laura and David met Kat to say goodbye. We have to leave by Monday, Labor Day, David explained. I need to get back to work. I know Jade read from you today, Kat said, but don't give up. You have 3 more days. Stay in the meadow. She will come back. The family, however, wasn't sure at all. Jade had been missing for 43 days. Early the next morning, the raven circled above the meadow. Jade followed it closer to the road. Her ears perked up at the sound of her dog friend. Come on, Layla, bark. Laura fed her dog a cheese treat. Keep calling your buddy. Ruff, 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 ruff. Jade moved through the tall grass and peeked out. Laura softly called to Jade, Here, puppy, good girl. They locked eyes. Jade ran as fast as she could into Laura's arms, kissing her all over. Jade followed Laura to a cabin. David! She leapt on the bed. Jade, I can't believe it. You're safe. David hugged her tight. But you're so thin. Let's get you something to eat. It's steak when we get home. She licked his face, wiggled her butt with happiness. Jade had found her family. Jade was called the Miracle Dog, and her story made her a famous spokesdog for pet transportation safety. Always secure your pets in a safety-approved carrier or harness in your car, Laura said when interviewed for the news. You never want to go through what we did. The end. I hope you enjoyed Jade Lost in Yellowstone. Bye.